Happy Friday, and welcome to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. I'm your co-host, Michelle Pichet, and I'm here today with Dr. Ryce and Dale Hoffman. We warmly welcome you to the show and thank you for choosing to be with us. Today is March 14th, 2014. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk with our hosts. We encourage you to call in with your comments and questions because then you can actively strengthen and deepen your process. So now let's welcome Michael and Dale in the process of learning and practicing forgiveness.
Well, hello, this is not Michael, it's Tim. Michael won't be with us today, it's my understanding.
Oh, because I thought his number's up here, so maybe I'm misseeing this.
Well, perhaps he's here. Michael, are you there?
No, I'm not here. So that's me, Dale. Yeah.
So, Dale, are you calling from an 828 number?
Yeah, I'm 828.
All right.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
Well, welcome, Dale.
Hi.
Thanks for being here with us today and the commitment to be here every Friday this year.
Oh, absolutely.
It's pretty exciting, and we've got the whole show ahead of us. What have you on your mind today?
Well, my mind's kind of blank right now. It's been an interesting week for me, and then just not even 10 minutes ago, I just found out about something really, truly not good that just happened within my family that I can't really talk about publicly yet, even though it's already slathered all over the internet. Something happened with someone in my family, and I just found out 10 minutes ago. So I'm still sort of, actually I haven't processed, it's just kind of stirring around in there. But all I can say is if everyone could just send their love to my brother's family in southern New Jersey. That's kind of all I can really say at the moment, even though, they're going through a huge challenge that happened overnight. So,
well, I join you in breathing with that and sending love to you and to them.
And to just know the truth, to know that all is in divine right order. Yeah, they're going to have a pretty challenging few days and weeks and months.
Well, hold a space of love for you and for them. And I'll invite you to just breathe a little bit, and I'll do a quick intro about what this show is in case we have anybody new listening or somebody's pulling up the archives. And I'm sitting in today for Dr. Michael Ryce and Jeanie Ryce, who are in the middle of doing an intensive in Costa Rica. An intensive learning experience where they're introducing people to the concept of forgiveness the way it was taught by Yeshua, commonly known as Jesus, in the ancient Aramaic. And this concept of forgiveness had nothing to do with pardoning somebody else because they did something horrible to you. It had to do with the knowledge about how to go within oneself into the mind-body energy system and remove whatever is in there that's unlike love, whatever is in there that doesn't belong. And the ancient teachings said God is love and you're made in the image and likeness of God, so you are made of this stuff of love. And that's the only energy that belongs in your system. The other energies that appear there are either things that have been handed down from the generations or things that you've mistakenly interpreted and locked in your own system since you've been alive. But they are not true. These are falsehoods, they're dreams of separation, and our alarm system to let us know when we've engaged in behavior that's off target is any form of negative emotion, anger, fear, sadness, hurt, confusion. And so when those emotions come up, that's my alarm system that lets me know my thoughts are off target, I have an energy in me that doesn't belong there, and I should breathe, and I should keep my breath flowing. And maybe Dale will talk a little bit more about the breath and how important it is in this work and how crucial it was to the Beatitudes that Yeshua talked about. But when I start to breathe, it gives me a whole different access to the forces that are actually breathing through me, that are actually trying to live and express through me. And from that position, if I have some concrete tools to use, I'm much more likely to be able to apply those tools, to be able to step back from whatever's gotten triggered in my energy system and engage what we call a spiritual faculty of will and choice, and choose to use the tools to remove the energies that don't belong. So I can literally recognize in the moment that I'm feeling anger or frustration or hatred or bitterness or resentment towards someone or some situation, that there is another option, that there is a world that exists underneath all of that turmoil that I'm creating with my thoughts, and that's resonating in me from energies that have been in me that don't belong there. There is a world underneath that I can have direct access to with the breath and with the willingness to face what's there that doesn't belong and process it out. So these tools are available on the website at www.whyagain.org. Click on the red and white bullseye in the center of the page, and it will take you to a page where you can download these tools for free. And I mean absolutely for free. Chapter 24 of Dr. Ryce's book, the most recent version of the 7-step worksheet process called Reality Management Worksheet, which is literally the tool of forgiveness, translated from the ancient Aramaic, and 5 or 6 audio downloads where Dr. Ryce and or Jeanie have stepped people through the use of that tool. Real people with real problems who've called into this internet show. And those recordings are there free for you to listen to and get different aspects of the worksheet process and the resistance and the willingness process with every recording. So there's more than you'd ever need to know right there to get started and eventually, with practice, become a master at the art of forgiveness, at the science and technology of forgiveness. So we encourage you to do that, and we encourage you to call in and press 1 if you have a question for Dale, and we'll check in with you, Dale. How's it feeling?
Everything is, everything's beautiful. And if I did several private sessions this week, and it always comes back to the forgiveness work and the worksheet. And I let people know if you don't have that, you really don't have life. You don't. If you're not able to know the power of literally just breathing consciously and stepping into whatever that is that you're feeling and letting that move through the system rather than resisting your feelings, which of course recreates the very thing you're trying to push against. It's like, try not to think about Barack Obama. Who are you not thinking about? Doesn't work that way. We try not to feel things because, of course, we live in a culture that says keep it capped down. Children are meant to be seen and not heard. Don't let your emotions show, and look at this beautiful thing that we've created as a result of that. But there are those of us that are willing to step into this and actually feel it. And it's amazing that just life is life, and we have this human experience that has all of these beautiful nuances and all of these what can actually be incredibly profound learning experiences that if you don't have the tools, you don't know how it is that you process these kinds of things, literally you would be flat on the ground. And I sort of make the joke with people, although it's not really a joke, that the energies that swing through or slide through life just in general for me would have had me flat on my back 20 years ago, and in fact they did have me flat on my back. And to me the key is in those first 3 keys from the Beatitudes of breathe, feel it, breathe, get your breath moving, be aware of your breath, step into whatever it is that you're feeling, step into your emotions and feelings. And then the third is not blessed are the meek as in doormats, but that word was makike, which it's the word humility which comes from that Latin root humus, which means from or into the fertile earth. In other words, it's like a liquid flow. You have that flowing, that liquidity there. You're letting it move through the system. In the words of the Lakota, they said, let the wind blow through you. And I guess I'll put this out there because now I'm seeing it all over Facebook, even though earlier, I guess 15 minutes ago, nobody really knew, but my brother's house burned down last night and in New Jersey. His family was not there. Their dog, Duchess, a little sweetie, she was able to somehow get out. But, yeah, so I'm holding that space for him, and that's another thing that's so incredibly important. Not everybody is going to always have everything figured out. I would say actually nobody always has everything completely figured out. What happens is, as an example, something happens around us with, family, someone down the street. It could be our child, which would be I would say, the greatest challenge of all, going through some sort of, what appears to be a painful situation. That's when we need to not there, calm down, don't feel what you're feeling, stuff it under, but we need to step into what we are feeling because there's an absolute resonance that's going on in that situation. And when we do our work, when we allow ourselves and we step into our own emotions and feelings and let those move through the system and ultimately throw those off, then that makes it a bit easier for everyone else in the space. It's one of those amazing things that happens, like as an example, in one of my talks or my retreats or one of Michael's retreats or workshops is like one person was doing something like a worksheet. One person hits on something in their worksheet and something starts coming up, and then all of a sudden there's little sort of corks popping up on the lake around the room, all these different people having something different or something that's popping up for them as well, even if no one has even talked about what's going on for them yet. And then when you do talk about it, you find out that all these things that were popping up in the room at the same time were actually in resonance with each other. And it's like when one of us is willing to step into that and let that rise to the surface rather than suppressing and repressing that, it's allowed to come up. When it's allowed to come up for one of us, it's allowed to come up for anyone who's willing to step into that with the breath and letting it move through the system and then the canceling or the letting go. And it's amazing how the very thing that looks like a world falling apart is in fact a world that is in a state of intensive healing, because the symptoms, Michael says all the time, the symptoms of disease, in fact, look just like the symptoms of healing. And I will say that the intensity of how that feels in the healing process is in 100% direct proportion to either our resistance or our willingness. If we're 100% willing to allow what's happening to happen, it can move right through the system, and in a lot of cases we aren't even aware of what even moved. However, if we resist it, it's almost like an octopus with tentacles on our face, and the more we try to not think about the octopus on our face, the more we come into resistance, and the more resistance we have, the more we suffer. And then what becomes obvious or manifest in our lives is that we have to suffer, and then our entire life begins to reflect suffering, as opposed to an entire life of realizing that we already are whole, we already are complete, we are what we are looking for, we are that light, that peace, that presence, and that conscious, active, present love. And when we step into that and let anything unlike that come up to be tossed out of the system, then our entire life reflects that. So I have such a gratitude to even been exposed to this, let alone to be actually out there teaching these aspects of it. And I'll say it's interesting that a lot of people, even in modern Aramaic or Syriac speakers, a lot of them don't even realize the magnitude of what is in those original ancient Aramaic teachings, because in a lot of cases their translations or their interpretations came from laying Aramaic Bibles next to a King James Bible, unfortunately. So a lot of their perspectives are actually from King James European English rather than from the original Aramaic first century meanings of what a lot of this stuff really meant. And that's why what I'm doing is I know why I'm here, is to let people know about that there's a depth that most people have never even seen in the Jesus teachings.
Well, part of what you were saying made me resonated with me the idea of, love thy neighbor, or your enemy. And you were talking a couple days ago, or a couple of times ago when you were on the phone, about that very passage where they didn't really have a word for what we think of as the enemy, but it was someone, I'll let you go into this, anyone or any situation in which I lock down my breath or I'm resisting and cutting myself off from. That was part of what was resonating when you were talking.
Absolutely.
And
yeah,
so,
what that is the sound that's there. Well, it has a chebu. A chebu is that word, of course, chuba, which is, of course, the kuba that we know of, and it's creating that spark and then fanning that flame with. And it's not even necessarily just. It doesn't necessarily mean people even. Only people that we stop breathing in the presence. It actually means anything, including any kind of situation where that laboiled means a constriction or a cutting off, almost like putting your hands around your own neck and keeping yourself from breathing, and not allowing that third beatitude, that open flow, that liquidity, that flowing, openness in whatever the situation is, not letting it move, not letting it flow through that system. And if we look at every single solitary situation in our entire lives, bar none, where we feel overwhelmed, and as an example, I started feeling a little overwhelmed about 15 minutes ago or so, and I almost look at this. I'm not saying there's a gift in my brother's home burning down. I'm not saying that whatsoever, but there's a gift in this happening right before the radio show because everybody got to see, hey, look at this. Dale Allen Hoffman is a human being. And Dale Allen Hoffman has monster things that come up, or what appear to be monstrous things in his life. And it's almost like an honor for me to be willing to go through that, like, on the call and be able to feel that. And it happens in a lot of my talks sometimes. I'll get into a subject that's really deep and has some really deep roots for me, and I'll literally, willingly, not put no masks whatsoever. I am not interested in the slightest in wearing any kind of mask if I'm up on stage or whatever that pedestal seems to look like for people. I'm literally putting it all out there and laying my heart on the table and say, look, what we're going through, it's, basically the same kinds of things here, but I have some tools that I've been given that allow me to process these things and not hold on to them and completely think that my entire life is collapsing in and breaking down. I've got these tools to get through them, and I know that these tools work, not sometimes, not 99.9% of the time, but 100% of the time. But that's if I'm willing to do the work. It's 100% direct proportion to my willingness or lack thereof. And I had a great private session earlier this week with someone who said, he was basically, without giving information away, he was basically telling me that, he's seen the Michael Ryce stuff, and but it seemed like sort of gargantuan, the worksheet as an example. And I'm like, well, I can definitely relate to that, especially if it's your first time looking at it. You see all these slash marks and parentheses and underlines and all these little side notes and little boxes to draw pictures in. I can absolutely understand that. And also at the same time, because I had the exact same feeling 20 years ago, at the same time I said, you're not going to find a system that is more efficient in processing these things through straight out of the gate by just putting the pen to the paper and doing the actual work. And I said in the beginning, what it looks like is it kind of looks usually like your life is falling apart. Because when you pull the lid off that box, Pandora's box, whatever you want to call it, and you start letting all these things breathe and flow, at first you come into access with things that you never realized were in there. And it looks for some, often, in a lot of times in the earlier stages, it looks like everything's completely falling apart. It looks like all this stuff is so completely unmanageable, and how much sense does it make for me to scratch the surface with this one stupid thing that's going on for me and putting on the paper, knowing that there's another one behind it and another one behind that and another one behind that and another one behind that. But yet, that's the way we do it. We roll our sleeves up, like Michael says, it's not Dr. Feelgood, this kind of work. We roll our sleeves up and we do it. And we do it one moment at a time, and we do it one worksheet at a time and one process at a time. And what happens is, after a few days of all that intensity, you get into a few weeks and then you get into a few months, and then ultimately a few years, and you look back and realize, hey, and that's why Michael encourages us to save the worksheets. You look back on what you were feeling 6 months ago, or if I was in this situation even 6 weeks ago, realizing that I would have gone completely blotto, gone completely unconscious, and put my finger in their face and said, it's all about you. It's all about what's wrong with you. It's not me. I've got everything figured out. And you realize how much all that work that you have done has made your life more open. Now you're breathing deeper. You're able to be fully and wholly conscious in the situations that pop up in your life. And if you keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, if you're in a human body, you still have work to do. That's the way it is. It's not a threat. That's actually a beautiful thing, because that means that the power is in your hands to realize that this is all an inside job. And you realize, looking further down the road, you start looking back and you go, hey, wait a second, I am doing a lot better. And I realized that if she said that to me 6 weeks ago, I would have completely flown off the handle. And if she said it to me 3 weeks ago, I would have said something and then caught it. And if she said it to me 2 weeks ago, I would have caught it as it was leaving my mouth. If she said it to me 1 week ago, then I would have stopped myself before I said it, but she said it to me today, and I've done all of this work around this one particular type of energy here, and she said it, and I didn't even realize I'd ever had anything in resonance with that to begin with, because I've kept pulling back those layers, peeling back the layers. We already are whole, we are perfect, we are complete. In truth, in fact, we are holy, but it's those bushel baskets or all of those things that we throw on top of the light that start to block that light from our realization. And it's those moments when we don't breathe that keeps those bushel baskets in place. It keeps those layers and those veils on top of that light. And it's like we don't breathe because we somehow know that if we do breathe, those bushel baskets and those veils are going to start burning up in that light of presence, because breath is catalyst. And yet, that's the actual good thing. We need those things to burn up in that light of presence, in that conscious, active, present love, because unfortunately, or I don't know if it's unfortunate, but for so many years and decades in our lives, we thought that those veils and those bushel baskets were who we were. We thought that what Eckhart Tolle would call the pain body was who I am in this life. But when you're willing to realize that that's actually the veil that's blocking you from the realization that you are literally the light of the cosmos, and you allow that to move through the system by, number one, breathing, number two, allowing yourself to feel whatever it is you're feeling, taking responsibility for it, and number three, letting it move through the system, canceling it, dropping it, and then walking down the road. When you've got that and you know that in your life, this world could literally change in 30 minutes if we just taught everyone on this planet this. If we just taught them breathe, feel it, let it pass, the world would literally completely transform itself in 30 minutes. And that's why I love, at the end of all of Michael's stuff, he talks about bringing this to every mind on the planet. I love that, because that's really what it's about. It's all about the fact that we already are whole and complete. However, we're believing in these veils and these painful past experiences, the hidden past, as I call it in my Lord's Prayer translation. We start thinking that our hidden past is who we are, when in fact, who we are is the light that is wholly and fully conscious right now in this present moment, and taking responsibility for whatever realities are up for us right now. It's a beautiful process. It's incredible, actually.
Well, I certainly agree with you in that. It's transformed my life, I'll say. And I thank you for that, and I thank you for that reminder about needing to... I love when you were talking about it one time, you talked about a power cable. Mm-hmm. Those high-intensity power cables, and if you cut it in half... There was another talk where you talked about trying to have the positive and the negative, and when you've got that, you've got an energy flow, you've got a battery. And if you try and cut off the negative, you lose all your power.
Yeah, and in fact, there's no way to cut off the negative. It's almost like the kicker of that one. We just try not to think about it.
It's that dream that we have of separation. It's the false, reality I create that I'm separate from somebody, or that my anger is justified, or whatever. And so it's a very powerful process. And as you say, the primary tool, as Yeshua was talking about in the first Beatitude, is keep the breath moving. Make your home in the breathing unity and just keep the breath moving. Let yourself feel, and then let it flow through you. Those first three, it's transformed my life to focus on that and to practice that. So thank you for that reminder. We have a couple people with their hands up if you're willing to take a call.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so we have someone from...
You might...
So,
Dr. Tim Scott,
Michelle, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I did want to say that I had a session right before the show started, and my client's 20 years old, and I'm introducing the work to her. And Dale, I just wanted to let you know, like, as you were speaking, she was just smiling. It felt like, I said, doesn't it feel like he's talking directly to us? Because it just kind of reiterates everything we had previously discussed over the hour. And so it's just rather amazing, and I just wanted to thank you for that, because I think Dale was around your age when he went to Heartland for the first time.
Thank you for saying that. And I'm talking to you because in a way I'm talking to me. And it's all smoke and mirrors, you know. Yeah, I was, I'm not sure how old I was when I went to Heartland, 95. Was it 95?
Well, that's 19 years ago.
It was 95, so yeah, it would have been, 22? 23. I was 23, actually. Michael seems to think I was a teenager, but yeah, I think I was 23. I thought it was 21, but anyway.
I pretty much think she's moved, touched, and inspired by what she's hearing from you now, 20 years later here.
It's all about doing the work, and I think the reason I'm still here talking about it is I was willing to do the work, and I was willing to stay with it and stay with it and stay with it. And, it was interesting when I went to Heartland because I allowed myself to get into like a clique of the ones who said, oh, this is all a bunch of crap, and I sort of locked in with the few people who were sort of complainers and whiners, and there's a lot that I really missed in the experience that I can see that now, and maybe I knew that on some level then too. So I sort of missed a lot when I was at Heartland in a lot of ways, but what happened was it really gave me such a deep appreciation for that, sort of almost like that, which I not necessarily threw away, but didn't allow myself into fully, and that also gave me a lot of empathy and compassion for a lot of people who, straight out of the gate may not necessarily go, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever, because maybe they're in some way a little bit leery about what they may unlock. But the thing that's become really important for me over the years is to realize that I'm never going to unlock more than what I can handle in any present moment. And you just do it one moment at a time, one worksheet at a time, as an example. And you keep going forward, and then life starts getting, I guess easier is a way to put it, but I'm not sure if easy is the word. It's just we become more enlightened, and we start having deeper realizations of how we create our lives literally over and over in the present moment. And then we start having choices. And rather than decisions, which are sort of automatic things that happen outside a lot of times, even in our realm of awareness, we start making conscious choices in our lives, and it changes everything when we realize that the power's in our own hands.
That's beautiful. I think from time to time we all have certain areas that we are fearful of uncovering. So we've got, area code 607. You are on the air. Who do we got, and where are you calling from?
It's Richard from Ithaca. How you everybody doing?
Oh, hey, Richard.
Well,
hi, Richard.
So I don't know if we've met before, Dale, but anyway, I got on the show late as you were just starting to explain the process, and I just wanted to, I had just, before I got on the show, basically gone through some stuff in my head, like a mental worksheet. I was, a couple weeks ago, I was involved in a board meeting, and I felt very badgered by the whole situation where this guy kept attacking me about a situation. It was like, and then anyway, so I felt very badgered, like this guy was just out to find out what my motive for something was or whatever. Anyway, so since then, I was been realizing that, in return, I've been sort of badgering the board back with questions about certain situations, about certain things. And I just gone into that situation right before I got on the air and had that feeling in my gut and realizing, this is me badgering them back. So like, okay, you guys did this to me, I'm going to do it to you. So as I was listening to I just went through that whole thing and letting go of the feeling, saying, this is what's going on for me. Whenever I got on the show and you were going through the process, and it's like, oh, wow, I just did that. I just went through that. I just realized that I'm badgering them back rather than being in a space of love and letting go of that feeling. So I just want to acknowledge you that hearing you go through the process just reinforced what was going on inside me, and I want to thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome, and I'm honored to be of service. And, I'll also say that, there's something that Tim sort of said in passing where he talked about being justified in anger. And I thought, well, it's such an interesting phrase because that's sort of such a Western, well, not even just Western, it's all over the planet, cultural thing. That somehow, look, I wanted something good. Maybe I think it's something good in this situation, and I didn't get it, and I feel like they should be seeing only the highest and best. So since they didn't see the highest and best, then I'm going to get a little bit pissed off and realize that, look, I'm the one who wants the good thing here, so I'm justified in having my anger. And I'm, my response to that when people say that to me, it's such an interesting phrase. I'm like, well, I guess you're justified in suffering and feeling like you're drinking poison. I always think that phrase about, that it's like the way we think of life and in terms of how it's everyone else's fault and, not being willing to do true forgiveness, it's almost like we're drinking a cup of poison and expecting them to drop dead, when in fact it's us. And a lot of times they don't even realize that we're going through what we're going through. They're not even aware of it in a lot of cases, and we hold on to this stuff for so long, realizing it's just a game that we play in our own heads and our own hearts. And, I'm honored to be, as Michael would say, I'm honored to be on the team with you. Absolutely.
Well, again, I just wanted to acknowledge that when I heard you saying what you were talking about the process, it was like, oh, gee, that's just what happened to me. I was letting go of that wanting to badger them back and letting go of the feeling, and recognizing that, I was, what was going on with my breath. So, it's just the way you spoke process. It was like, you were just reaffirming what I was going through. And so, again, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Have a good day.
You too.
All right, we do have another person with their hand up. It's area code 541. You're on the air.
Hi there. Hello. It's Julie from Ashland. Hi.
Oh, hi, Julie.
I'm good. So great to have you as a guest host, Michelle. You do a wonderful job.
Oh, thank you. That's sweet of you to say.
Mm-hmm. And it's always great to hear the work you're doing with Rex in the prisons, too. And it's great when you have your own stuff going on, just like, we saw Dale go through. So, hi. Here is my reflection in the world that I would like some help on. I have a friend who has cancer, and it's in the throat area, and he has been going through this. It's been progressing for 2 years, and it's now suffocating his breathing passageways. It's been a gradual suffocation process, and I guess he's down to a pencil's width of airway, passageway, and he's refused conventional medicine treatments, so he's not done radiation or anything like that, chemo. And he appears to himself and to others to be very conscious, very spiritual, doing the work. But, so I'm wondering what is missing here? What's the key thing going on that I could maybe recommend to him? And how does he use breathing when breathing is so difficult and he's, getting worse instead of better? What is there something he's missing in its entirety? Sometimes you speak like that, Dale.
It's an interesting situation because I can't really answer that fully. This is something that would be in his own work that he would have to uncover for himself. In terms of, is there something else in terms of besides breathing? What I would say is in this situation, in terms of, what's going on in all levels or layers for him, I couldn't answer the question. But, I get asked the question occasionally, is there something else besides breath? Is there something else besides breathing? Obviously, there's going to have to be. And I think that, to me, the most powerful catalyst for awareness is breath. Another powerful one is to actually bring into your awareness whatever it is that sort of like, let's say you're doing the worksheet. Let's put it into a hypothesis that I can't breathe. Let's just go that far with it. I'm literally not able to breathe. What do I do? Well, let's say that I'm writing down what's on the worksheet, and I get to those spaces where it says breath, and let's say I've got a machine that's breathing me, and if I'm conscious enough to be able to do a worksheet with a machine that's breathing me, what do I do in that situation? What I would say is what you do in that situation is you look at whatever that is that you wrote down, whatever the situation is. It doesn't have to be words on a page, and you bring your awareness to it. And what I want you to do is acknowledge that essentially, look, whatever I'm feeling, they're still going to be having feelings. They're still going to have the emotions. There's still going to be thoughts connected to those emotions and feelings. What's important is that they're able to take number one, say, look, if I'm feeling it, then it's inside of me, and I'm taking responsibility for that. And then you almost, in your awareness, you put your arms around it almost. You allow whatever it is that you're thinking and feeling to have a voice. We stop resisting it, and maybe we don't have the actual mechanism of breathing to be able to do that with, but just bringing it into our awareness and saying, look, this is inside of me. I am willing to feel this, and I'm willing to let it move through the system. That's really the key in the whole process. The breath is an amazing catalyst to move that forward, but interesting question that I do get from time to time is that what if someone literally cannot breathe? And that would be the thing. I'd say is to hold it in your awareness, take the responsibility for it, be willing to feel that, and then be willing to let it go. Realize whatever the goal was in this moment, I felt I should have been, spoken to with respect. Whatever it was, I felt that, they should have talked to me in a way that honored my position in the world better, whatever that may be. Whatever the goal is, drop it, let it go, and just let it move through the system. And it's really about the awareness. Well, number one, taking responsibility, and number two is just the awareness of realizing that I don't like the way it feels. It's obviously not something that should be in my system, so I'm letting it go. And I would say that, breath or not, we can still do that by just taking the responsibility for it, putting our arms around it, and actually embracing it, not necessarily saying, I love you, set up habitation in my heart for the rest of my life, but I'm allowing you to have a voice. I'm not pushing back on you anymore. I let you to be whatever it is you need to be, and also I'm letting you go completely, and you cancel. And you go through the canceling process. And do it, see how it works out. Because really, the breath is the catalyst, but it's about taking responsibility for what's in there, realizing that it doesn't feel so good, and then canceling it, letting it go. That's really the key to the process. And I'd be interested in hearing how that turns out, actually.
Yes, I'm going to let him listen to this tonight, so thank you. And I have another aspect of it. Those of us that are outside of his internal process, there are such a thing as prayer circles, and we have not unified ourselves, we family and we friends, to coming really in as full force to really pray for him. And that's one part. And, he has heard of a lot of other cases of these kinds of things where people go to the other side and they come back, and they have this awareness and they completely heal. And it may be that that's what he's wanting to create for himself. However, one of those aspects is, those of us out here in his world doing that for him. And we aren't really. So I know for me, in this moment, I can do worksheets because I have actually noticed my breath has been really weird lately, and I'm finally recognizing it may have to do with him. So I could do that, and I know energetically it will at least release in me and ripple out, and just we'll see what happens next, what presents itself next. So prayer, I was wondering if you could address maybe that.
Well, sure, and I think we've sort of lost, I know that we've lost touch with what prayer actually meant in the ancient sense. Today, prayer is like praying for something. I pray for, I'm praying for a car, or I'm praying for my healing, I'm praying for another person's healing. But in fact, that's not prayer. What that is it's almost like begging. What that is it's a lack of faith. And what prayer actually means, slota in Aramaic, it means, one of the ways you can say it is set a trap for that divine presence, set a trap for God, whatever you want to say. What it means is that slota or slothun, what prayer means in the ancient sense is whatever it is that is obvious to me is going to manifest, and that's going to be in direct proportion to whatever my emotional resonance is with that. So that means if there's something that I absolutely can't stand about my neighbor, that is a prayer. Our fears and in the words of Dr. John Waterhouse, our fears and our phobias are prayers. When we curse, we are praying. When we're lying, we are praying. You got to get that. You got to realize that any moment when we are, something is obvious to us. Obvious is the Latin word manifest. And there's a lot of emotional resonance either for or against it, because both are creative processes. That's an act of prayer. And what I would say in prayer, the person who understood prayer more than anyone else in history besides Yeshua, there's one person that I can direct you toward, although he's no longer on this earth, and it's Ernest Holmes, who created Religious Science, Science of Mind. It's now Centers for Spiritual Living. Ernest Holmes understood what Yeshua said about prayer more than anyone that I've ever seen in all of the writings I've ever read in my entire lifetime, and I'm constantly digging into things like that. Although I will say, if you look at the section on prayer in Khalil Gibran's The Prophet, that's also quite profound. But the thing that Ernest was saying was what prayer really is not praying for something, because if you pray for something, you're acknowledging that it doesn't exist. So what you're actually doing is your prayer is not that thing, your prayer is the lack of that thing. If I'm praying for someone's healing, I'm acknowledging that they aren't whole, they aren't healed, they aren't complete, and so that's actually what expands. Regardless of people's beautiful intentions, it's just the way the system works. Jung said it, Freud said it, Yeshua said it. It's in quantum science. You don't get what you want, you get who you are. Whatever's resonating, whatever's manifest, whatever's obvious. So the difference would be looking at the words of Ernest Holmes, where he said, there is nothing to heal, only truth to be revealed. And what he was saying is you already are whole, you are complete, but again, we put too many things on top of that light. So what we would do is get into that space, breathe, feel whatever is in our system, and see that person as whole, healthy, and complete. Period. That's it. That is what you're doing. If there's anything in your mind, it's seeing to the best of your ability right now in this moment that I am healthy, whole, and complete, and that I see you as healthy, whole, complete. You are the whole, holy, manifest oneness of all creation. Totally and completely. Don't use the word healed. If you're saying you want someone healed, you're acknowledging that they're sick, and that's what's going to expand. Don't say you want them to be cured. If you're using the word cured, then you're literally saying that something is wrong with the system. What's going to come out and what's going to manifest is what's obvious to you, not what you're asking for. So what prayer in that ancient sense was, what am I really feeling in resonance to this situation? And what you do is you step into anything unlike that wholeness. You do the forgiveness process. You let it go. If you're having problems seeing him as 100% healthy, whole, and complete, you'll actually do your own processes and your own worksheet. Of course, you already know that. Throw that out of the system, and then constantly you're coming back to knowing that everything is whole, everything is perfect, complete, and healthy. And that's what prayer originally meant. Unfortunately, today it's become this petitioning. And, of course, if you petition, it's exactly why Yeshua said, Allah knows exactly what you want before you ask for it. And regardless of what your words are saying, it's not about that. That's an extraneous thing. It's about what are you really thinking and feeling. And there's no way to separate forgiveness from true prayer. It's impossible. There is literally no way to separate the two, because you can't get to that whole conscious prayer unless you're willing to forgive all those things inside of your system that tells you you're not whole, complete, and healthy and 100% holy. So I hope that helps.
Yes, I think it will help. It helped me just now. So I'll do my work with some more expanded perspective that I was omitting. So thank you.
Absolutely.
You know, I want to mention this woman, Anita Murjani, who wrote a book called Dying to Be Me, and she had a profound near-life experience and came back and healed totally, and was kind of at the very end, gone already. And anyway, her family was Indian, East Indian from India, and they were praying the way they pray. And I'm just really, I'd love to know the way they prayed. You know, it was probably more in alignment with what you were speaking of. And yeah, that's it.
Sorry, I didn't mean it's an interesting thing, because before the Lord's Prayer, Yeshua did not say, pray these words. He said, pray in this way. And I'm quite sure that he wouldn't have gone, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Number one, because none of those words actually existed, those English words. But it would have been, I really feel that it would have been about his energy. He wouldn't have been spitting words out for people to copy, because that's the very thing he said not to do. He said, don't yak out in the open with words. He said it's about going into your tawanak, which is that word that was ultimately translated as closet. And closet's nice, but what that actually means is going back to the center of your being, tawanak. Ka, the ka sound means yours, but tawana means the middle, going back to the center. What are you really feeling in relation, and radiating even beyond all of your thoughts and feeling, coming to the whole perfect complete center and radiating the energy from there, because whatever is on the surface is, again, it's veils. He called it the hypocrite. It's the bushel baskets. So it's literally about that. It's about knowing that he is 100% absolutely whole and complete, but that is absolutely indistinguishable from you knowing that you are 100% whole, holy, healthy, and complete. There's not two different people in the room. There's only one. So when you realize that in you, you'll see that in him.
Oh, that's very great. Thank you. There is only God.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
There's only one.
Thank you. All right, I'll pass the blessings on to another caller or anything else you all might want to take forward from here. And thank you so much, Dale.
You're so welcome. I love you.
All right. I love you too. Bye.
Bye.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dale. It right there at the end again, it was resonating with me what Michael talks about when he says in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made flesh. And Michael says the ancient Aramaic says something closer to, in the beginning was the mind energy, and the mind energy became flesh. And it just was woven through all the talk you were doing there, that what we focus on, we get more of. We're actually creating with that mind energy.
Absolutely. And it's whether you like it or you don't. It's whether you're accepting it or focusing on it or resisting it. It's all the same. It's all smoke and mirrors. Whatever we're pushing against, who is it? I don't even know where it originally started. What we resist persists. So whether we're for it or against it, in either way, that's what's obvious to us, and that's what manifests. It doesn't get any more clear or simple than that, I think.
Or more powerful. And it's that, as Michael says, it's one of the greatest tragedies that's been done to us, is that we've been hoodwinked into believing that we are not creators. And the fact of the matter is we're constantly creating. We're either creating by default or we're creating by conscious design, but we're always creating.
You know, that brings me right back to the On Creating Consciously workshop that Michael does. That was so, of all of the things that Michael had going, it was the one thing that really seemed to, I don't want to say push my buttons the most, but the one that had the biggest learning curve for me, because I had to literally all this well-intentioned sort of new agey, new thought, and I'm saying all new thought or all new age, but a lot of this stuff about create, manifest, and all this garbage, lingo, junk that was pushed into my brain, or that I allowed into my brain through, let's be honest, through the publishing industry for so many decades. I didn't realize that when I was out there trying to manifest, what I was acknowledging was that in the act of doing that, I was acknowledging that something was not already whole, perfect, and complete. And in the act of trying to do something outside of myself, I didn't realize I was recreating from my center that life is not whole, perfect, and complete. And then I'm wondering why I can occasionally manifest or have demonstrations of these amazing things, but then all of a sudden it looks like it hits the fan again, and all of a sudden my bank account goes negative. It wasn't until I got into Michael's work and really dug in, especially on Creating Consciously, when he takes you into the visualization in like the original version that I had going back 20 years, and he would say, I want you to imagine a life of just the greatest, most beautiful home, all these different things he takes you into, and like, what's the best that you can see yourself having in this moment? And then he starts saying, I want you to expand that. And it was amazing because when it would expand, all of a sudden all this crap would come up. And I would feel all these veils come up and all these bushel baskets would rise up. And he was saying, look, it's not about adding more to what you think you are. It's about taking the blocks out that tell you you are not already everything. And when I went back, as an example, to the Ernest Holmes teachings with that perspective, realizing that even blessings to the people that expand Ernest Holmes' message, but a lot of people that even teach his stuff don't really, truly get the magnitude of what he was saying. He was never really talking about stuff. He was talking about the realization that I am the all. I am literally the one. I am the creative source of everything, and that is not an ego statement. When you come into the realization of that, you realize that your entire life is merely nothing more than a mirror reflection of whatever it is that's obvious to you in your life. And when the thing that I think most people miss about Ernest's stuff is they get people focusing on things and stuff. And the problem with focusing on things and stuff and then telling people, well, look, it's really not about things and stuff. The problem with focusing on things and stuff is what that does is it's you getting into a state of yearning, whether you want to admit it or not. And it's the pink elephant in the room that a lot of people in the creation teachings won't talk about. The pink elephant. The pink elephant is that these people know that when you get into the yearning for something out there, you're acknowledging that you already are not whole and you are not complete. And it's the one thing about Ernest's teachings that I think everything's centered around. It's the one thing about Yeshua that everything's centered around, that we are the wholeness. We are, again, I come back to St. Francis, what you're looking for is what is looking. You already are what you are looking for. And if you continue to look outside in something and you're trying to find something that will somehow complete you, all you're doing is manifesting what's obvious to you, which is that I am not yet complete because I need this thing. And what happens is it's really, literally, it's about cutting the crap, talking about the pink elephants in the room and realizing it's not about things. And then you start realizing that true prosperity is not about stuff. True prosperity is about me being, even in an empty room with absolutely nothing in it and feeling absolutely 100% completely prosperous. It means that I can walk down the street in New York City. I don't have a yearn to have to get something to prove that I'm somehow prosperous. I already know I am whole and complete. And when I do get something that comes to me, I'm able to honor that and say, thank you, and it's absolute. You're literally a walking gratitude machine. You're constantly walking in that honor of awareness that you are the one. And it's the funny thing that I've seen this masquerading of the accumulation of stuff as somehow what prosperity or abundance means. And if that's what prosperity and abundance means, then I don't want anything to do with it, because that, to me, is the lie. It's the pink elephant in the room. It's not about stuff. It's about knowing that I am 100% whole, perfect, and complete. And that also goes with the fact that, look, if you are surrounded by poverty and that's the way your life looks, then it's exactly the same as having tons of. You ever notice when you go into someone's home that feels truly prosperous? You ever notice how spacious and open the home feels? But you go into a lot of homes of people that feel scarcity and they feel poor. There's junk piled floor to ceiling, like there's no space to let something new in. It's kind of the key to the whole thing. When you know that you are the all, you don't have to clutter your life because you know that there's nothing outside of you that will ever take the place of the realization that you already are whole and complete. That was the root of all evil, is believing in something outside, because there is nothing outside. There is no person outside. There's no consciousness outside of the one.
So, Dale, is there a word in the ancient Aramaic that was translated as gratitude?
There's a few of them, and I guess I would have to look into them. Gratitude is an interesting word because it's almost like, in a lot of ways, the way we think of gratitude today is a lot of cases, a lot different than the way things were back then. What gratitude was back then, a close word would be kadash or kudsha. Kadash, kudsha, if you're the Rucha de kudsha, or in the second line of the Lord's Prayer, hallowed be thy name, that word hallowed. And what that means is empty, spacious, and also whole and complete. Interesting, empty and whole at the same time, or empty and complete. And what that meant was that when I realized my wholeness, that I radiate that out. And that would be what we would call essentially gratitude. I'd probably have to dig into some lexicons to see what the different words were for gratitude back then, though. And maybe that's something I can talk about next week when I dig around a little.
Okay. Well, it was just resonating with me as you were talking. It's the essence of being whole and complete, even if I'm feeling empty and spacious inside. As a matter of fact, that's when I most often feel whole and complete. And Way of Mastery hits it beautifully in several different ways. One of them says, if I'm coming from the mind of Christ, if I've got, $40 million in the bank, I say, oh, well, this must be the perfect situation for me to be in right now. How can I extend love? And if the very next day the bank account and the wallet is completely empty, coming from the mind of Christ, I say, well, this must be the perfect situation for me to be in right now. How can I extend love?
That gets me thinking of the word gratitude coming from the word grateful, which is great and full. Great as in expansive, which is the spaciousness, and full as in not letting anything else in, but feeling complete. I feel expansive and I feel complete. To me, that's what gratitude is.
Well, we have a minute and a half left. Is there a quick plug you want to do about something that's coming up?
Well, I'll be in Wilmington, North Carolina, doing a small still point session tomorrow with some beautiful souls. And then I'm at Unity in Wilmington filling in for Reverend Richard on Levy, which is the 2 Sunday services. And then I'm doing actually a Beatitudes workshop that afternoon. Tonight, if anybody's in Asheville, North Carolina, tonight I'm doing a thing called Mind's Eye in Asheville. They can find that on my webpage, where a lot of people with different philosophies get together and we sort of share what's common between our views, which is really powerful. And next week I'm actually doing a still point gathering in Asheville, or it's the last Friday of the month. I can't remember what date that is. I don't have a calendar in front of me, but the last Friday of the month. All that stuff can be found on my website. Thanks for asking.
Well, thank you for that. Thanks for being here, and please join us again on Monday, and have the best year yet of your eternal life.